Ladies and gentlemen, football fans, the Bears faithful, and every single person who has spent the last decade watching the Chicago Bears break their hearts in slow motion, strap in. Because what is happening in the NFC North right now is nothing short of a full-blown war, and Chicago is not just showing up to the fight this time. They are showing up with a cannon. The question that is keeping every Bears fan up at night, every Packers fan nervous, and every Lions fan both terrified and quietly optimistic is this. Who in the NFC North is the real monster this season? And can anybody actually stop the Bears from running the whole thing back? Let's talk about it. Because this is not just a conversation about football. This is a conversation about destiny, about redemption, about a city that has been waiting for a moment like this for far too long. And after what we saw in 2025, after the Bears went from 0-2 underdogs to NFC North champions, after Caleb Williams launched a 46-yard touchdown bomb to DJ Moore in overtime to stun the Green Bay Packers, after Chicago clinched their first playoff berth in 5 years and came back from behind 6 different times in the final 2 minutes of regulation, the most in franchise history. Mind you, you better believe the rest of this division is looking over their shoulder. But before we crown anybody, we need to be real about something. The NFC North is not a division you waltz through. This is the gauntlet. This has always been the gauntlet. Not long ago, the 4 teams in this division combined for the greatest winning percentage of any division in NFL history in a single season. 45 combined wins. A plus 384 scoring differential. This is the most savage zip code in professional football, and heading into 2026, things are not getting any easier. So, who should the Bears be most scared of? Who is the genuine threat standing between Chicago and back-to-back division titles? Well, according to Bears analysts and the football world at large, the answer is loud and clear. It is the Detroit Lions. Not the Packers. Not the Vikings. The Detroit Lions are the biggest test on Chicago's schedule, the biggest roadblock to their ambitions, and possibly the most dangerous team in the entire NFC heading into this season. And here is why that conversation is so much more complicated than just looking at a roster. Because the Lions are not the same team they were when Ben Johnson was calling plays. And figuring out exactly what they are now is the central mystery of the entire NFC North. Let's rewind for a second and talk about what happened to Detroit. Because 2025 was supposed to be their year. Again, for the 3rd straight time, the Lions entered a season as the hunted, the favorites, the team everyone needed to beat. And then the wheels came off. Not because the talent disappeared. It didn't. Jahmyr Gibbs is still one of the most explosive backs in football. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still a walking first down machine. Jameson Williams is still one of the most dangerous deep threats in the league when he is healthy and locked in. Sam Laporta is still one of the premier tight ends in the game. Jared Goff is still a top 10 quarterback when you give him the right system and the right tools. The talent in Detroit never went anywhere. What went wrong was the offense lost its identity. John Morton came in to replace the legendary Ben Johnson after Johnson packed his bags and headed to Chicago, and what followed was one of the most painful offensive coordinator situations in recent memory. Morton was eventually stripped of his play-calling duties in November, fired at the end of the season, and Dan Campbell graded himself. His words, and I quote, "a freaking F for the Lions' 25 season." That is not a man who is sugarcoating anything. That is a man who watched something beautiful fall apart in slow motion and had the self-awareness to call it exactly what it was. Hold on a second, guys. Look, we are hitting the 4-minute mark of this journey together. And I want to take a quick pause to connect with all of you. We put a massive amount of hard work, sleepless nights, and genuine dedication into producing deep dive documentaries like this for the Chicago Bears voice community. It takes a lot to bring you this level of storytelling, and honestly, every single subscription equals a huge wave of motivation for us to keep pushing forward. If you love this team and you love what we are building here, please take 1 second right now to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button, share this video with another die-hard fan, and leave a comment down below with your thoughts so far. Your support truly keeps this channel alive, and we appreciate every single one of you. Let's get right back into it. So, Detroit went out and did what desperate, highly talented teams do. They hired somebody new, somebody with a plan, somebody who has been in the room with elite quarterbacks and knows how to build an offense from the ground up. Enter Drew Petzing. And look, the early returns on this guy are fascinating. Jared Goff himself said after OTAs that Petzing has a great feel for what it takes to run an offense, to run a room, to balance volume with intentionally attacking a defense. Goff called working with him a lot of fun. And that is a quarterback who has seen things, who has been through coordinators, who has been through systems, giving genuine enthusiasm about a new voice. That matters. And Petzing himself said the talent on Detroit's offense is immense, that there are a lot of different directions you can take it, and that whatever they do, they want to be really hard to defend and make sure their best players affect the game. He is not walking in blind. He knows what he has. Petzing's system is expected to bring more play action, more motion, more two tight end sets, and more designed mismatches, an offense that can force defenses to defend the entire field. And if you think Sam Laporta does not absolutely feast in a tight end heavy system designed by a guy who turned Trey McBride into a record-breaking machine in Arizona, you are not paying close enough attention. But here is the honest question that nobody in Detroit can fully answer yet. Is Drew Petzing Ben Johnson? Is he even close to Ben Johnson? Because that is the real standard. Ben Johnson was not just a good offensive coordinator, he was an architect. He was a genius in the room. He left Detroit and immediately turned a 5-win Chicago Bears team into NFC North champions. That is not a coincidence. That is world-class coaching. And the question for Lions fans everywhere is whether Petzing is going to look more like the Johnson era, explosive, creative, impossible to game plan against, or whether he is going to look more like John Morton, a guy who had great talent and still could not figure out how to make it sing. Some Lions analysts point out that Petzing's record in Arizona was 15 wins and 36 losses over 3 seasons, and before Lions fans throw their phones across the room, the immediate counter-argument is that the Arizona Cardinals roster during that stretch was one of the worst in football. He was working with injuries, with backup quarterbacks, with a depleted offensive line. And somehow he still managed to produce a top 8 offense in 2024. Put him in front of Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams, and you might be looking at a completely different animal. But that question, is it the scheme or is it the players, is exactly the kind of thing you cannot answer until the games start counting. And that uncertainty is precisely why every Bears fan should be watching Detroit closely, but not shaking in their boots just yet. Because the Bears went 0-2 against the Lions last season. Chicago got absolutely spanked on the road in Detroit. And yet, the Bears still won the division. They still made the playoffs. They still showed a level of resilience and fight that this franchise has not had in years. And now they enter 2026 with a full year of Ben Johnson football under their belts. With Caleb Williams entering his 2nd season with a complete offseason of preparation, with a roster that has been upgraded on the offensive line with real, legitimate starters instead of the patchwork paper mache situation they were running before. The Bears are not the same team they were in Week 1 of 2025. Caleb Williams, by the way, deserves his own moment in this conversation, because what he did in his first year under Johnson was remarkable. He went from a quarterback who was being questioned, doubted, and mocked in some corners of the internet to a guy who led the most comeback wins in the final 2 minutes of regulation in the entire NFL. That kind of clutch performance is not a fluke. That is a player who found his true identity under a coaching staff that believes in him, that built a system completely around him, and that gave him the actual weapons to succeed. And now heading into year 2, the expectations are rising, the pressure is real, and the opportunity to take another massive step forward is sitting right there waiting. Speaking of the Packers, because we always have to talk about the Packers, here is the reality check that Green Bay fans might not want to hear. The Packers were not the division's biggest threat in 2025, and entering 2026, the injury situation hanging over their pass rush is a massive concern. The Packers made the playoffs last year. They won 11 games the year before that. Matt LaFleur is a legitimate head coach. Jordan Love, when healthy, is a dangerous quarterback. But the Bears went to Green Bay, lost, came home, and then stunned the Packers in overtime with one of the most dramatic plays of the entire season. Chicago owns that rivalry right now in a way that feels different from the old days when Aaron Rodgers was making Bears fans cry every single week. And the Vikings? Look, J. McCarthy is fascinating. He is a young quarterback with real arm talent and a team around him that wants to compete. But Minnesota was eliminated from playoff contention in 2025 before the season was even over. That is not a team that is ready to win the NFC North in 2026. They are building towards something. They just are not there yet. So here is where it all lands. The Bears are the defending division champions. They have the best head coach in the NFC North. No disrespect to anyone, but Ben Johnson is doing things in Chicago that nobody expected this fast. They have a franchise quarterback on the rise. They have one of the most stacked skill position groups in the entire conference. Their defense is building around real difference makers. And the rest of the division, as talented as Detroit remains, as dangerous as the Packers can be, is chasing them. But here is the cautionary tale that Chicago fans need to carry with them all offseason. The Lions are a sleeping giant. Detroit's new defensive coordinator Kelvin Shepard said this defense belongs to Jack Campbell, that everyone in that locker room knows it. Jack Campbell is an elite linebacker. Aiden Hutchinson is one of the best pass rushers in football when healthy. The Lions believe their offensive line growing pains from 2025, where they played 2 newcomers at guard, actually built experience that will pay off heavily in 2026. And if Petzing can unlock Jameson Williams the way his system suggests he can, stretching the field with play action and misdirection, then the Lions are going to be an absolute nightmare for every defense in the NFC, including Chicago's. The real honest truth of the NFC North in 2026 is that this is a division where you do not get to relax. You do not get to coast. You do not get to show up halfway and expect results. Every single week is a battle. The Bears proved that last season by going from 0-2 to NFC North champions. The Lions proved the flip side of that same coin by going from 2-time division favorites to missing the playoffs entirely. This is a division that will humble you the moment you think you have figured it out. What the Bears need to do is exactly what made them champions in 2025. Play complementary football. Protect Caleb Williams. Lean on their insane turnover advantage. They led the entire NFL with 33 takeaways and 23 interceptions last season, which is an absolutely staggering number, and find a way to at least split the season series with Detroit. Even splitting with the Lions would be a victory for Chicago. Win one, lose one, move on. That is not a defeatist attitude. That is a realistic acknowledgement that Detroit, even in a down year, is one of the most physically talented rosters in professional football. The NFC North race in 2026 is going to be one of the most entertaining storylines in the entire NFL season. You have the reigning champion Bears with Caleb Williams hungry to prove he is for real. You have the Lions with a mountain of talent, A new offensive coordinator who may or may not unlock everything, and a chip on their shoulder the size of Lake Michigan after the year they had. You have the Packers lurking, because the Packers always lurk, and Jordan Love is too talented to just disappear. And you have the Vikings, young and hungry and building something that might not fully arrive in 2026, but is absolutely coming. This is not a division where you pick a winner in June and go to sleep. This is a division that you watch every single week, every single game, every single snap. Because any one of these teams is capable of going on a run that changes the entire conversation. The Lions know it. The Packers know it. The Bears, more than anyone, know exactly what it feels like to come from behind and steal the whole thing when nobody expected it. The question is whether Chicago can do it again, whether Caleb Williams can take that next massive step, whether Ben Johnson can out-scheme everyone around him for a second straight year, whether the Bears can fix their road woes against Detroit and finally go into that building and compete. All of those questions get answered on the field starting with Week 1 and not a single second before. Chicago Bears football is back. It is relevant. It is exciting. And for the first time in a long time, the rest of the NFC North is the one looking up at them. That is a beautiful thing. And whether it lasts for one more season or becomes the foundation of something truly special depends on what happens between now and February. The war for the NFC North is coming. And baby, it is going to be must-see television every single Sunday. We have made it to the final stretch of this breakdown, and if you are still here listening to my voice, it means you are a true member of the Bears family. Like I mentioned earlier, we pour an incredible amount of hard work and dedication into making these documentary-style deep dives. It is a true labor of love for this team, and every single subscription we get gives us the vital motivation to keep creating this high-level content for you. If you haven't yet, please smash that like button right now to support our community. Drop your ultimate NFC North winner prediction in the comments below. Are you backing the Bears to repeat? Betting on the Lions to bounce back? Or are you rolling with Green Bay or Minnesota? Let us know. And if you are not subscribed to this channel yet, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and join the Chicago Bears Voice family. We are going to be right here with you through training camp, the preseason, and every single game of the season. Bear down.